Alright, welcome back to another track breakdown. I'm Hyfudiar, and today I will be going over my newest track, Release. So, this entire track is made out of a single recording I took last week. A recording of a drinks cooler in the cafeteria at work. You can see the project file is cooler. So let's see. You can just hear the raw recording. So I recorded it for about an hour and a half. I had to trim off first couple minutes because there were, some people getting drinks out of the cooler and talking. And it did actually, I thought about leaving it in because it did have a nice sort of effect to it, I think. But it didn't end up fitting in with the final version of the track, so I cut it out. But the cooler goes through these cycles where it's almost silent, and then this is its normal running sound, which is what inspired me to make it. You have this peak around 500 hertz. It's just kind of going up and down, a bit like a bell. This is the raw audio. Oh, actually, no, it's not. This is the raw audio. It's very nice sounding. So I took this recording, and that night, or no, actually, I think it was the following night, I I basically made this first track. This ended up being pretty much the same through the whole thing. So I just have it going through some resonators. I found the peak it was at was right about C4. So I tuned the resonators to C4 and then up and down in octaves. And then put it into an EQ, boosting those peaks. I also have it much quieter without the EQ, and also the resonators aren't, it's not 100% wet because I wanted it to, you just still be able to tell that it is a recording. It's not just like a synthesizer as it would sound if I had the wet all the way up. Spectral time, pretty quick interval, crossfading, adds a cool metallic, unnatural effect to it. But again, not all the way wet, just a little bit. Then some delay, compression. This is mostly compressing that peak around 500 hertz because sometimes, if it gets loud enough and just hits the resonators in the right way, it can start clipping. This was a nightmare. I made this first track just in like a couple hours, if that, at work. Then I proceed to spend about 12 hours making the rest of it. And compression, or just mixing in general, took like as much time as the actual production did. Mixing this was way more complex than I would have expected. So that's kind of the core of it. Let me get back. There we go. So let's see, what is this one? Oh, this is the chain. So this went through a couple of versions. Originally I had a shaper kind of making a transient out of the recording, and then a little bit of echo to give it kind of this little bit of a rhythm. And then I sidechained the rest of the tracks to that. But eventually I decided I didn't really like that. I think I may have done that while I was at work as well. I decided I didn't really like that. So let's see. So this is all the same as the first part. Yep, you can see there's the shaper utility for making the transients. We go into a little bit of an echo, and then I believe one of these is gated off. So on one side it's completely silent. Then on the other, it's pretty quiet, so it's hard to hear, but goes through some saturation and filtering reverb into my bad tape stereo effect preset, which is something I've built based on something I've noticed when recording a lot of things off of cassette. It seems like very old, worn cassette tapes, the stereo gets messed up on them somehow. I don't really know why. But it has this kind of effect where it doesn't just stay centered. It kind of swings around from side to side randomly. And so I made this to replicate it, to add that kind of, I don't know. It doesn't change the sound at all. It doesn't make it lo-fi, but it recreates that part of the lo-fi sound of an old cassette. It does it pretty convincingly. So it's a random LFO and then a binary LFO randomly turning it this on and off, or turning the depth up and down rather. It doesn't actually turn the depth all the way down, which I thought it used to, but maybe not. And then I just have this LFO to go between the silent half and the bad tape stereo half. When this is all the way down, it's all going to the gated chain. This is all the way at its peak. This track, but I'm not gonna get into that track quite yet. Oh, let me, actually it doesn't matter. Um, so this is another one pretty similar to the top one, but I cut out. I have the resonators still going, though. Probably doesn't really make much of a difference, because I have the EQ cutting all of those instead of boosting them. So this kind of isolates all of the noise from the background of this. And then I have it going into, I don't need this one, split between just a blank chain and then a shifter, frequency shifter, that's just shifted the tiniest bit. So they very, very slowly come in and out of phase with each other, and it has a, I guess it is kind of a, that's it, sped up. It's almost like a phaser flanger sort of effect, but very slow and kind of adds some movement to the noise in the background. So once I had these 3 tracks basically all done, I exported it and then recorded it onto my 8-track player. Which I don't know if I've actually talked about yet. Coincidentally, I got this for working on my Thanksgiving track from last year. And I hadn't really done anything more since with it. So it's just an 8-track recorder and player. And it's very fiddly. Getting the levels right is pretty annoying. Because it will clip very, very easily. And it's also just really annoying working with 8-track tapes. Like, there's a reason we stopped using them. You can't rewind them. So every time I mess something up, or the audio just cut out for whatever reason, or anything like that, I have to fast forward all the way through the tape, which these tapes are 100 minutes long. However, it's really only 25 minutes because the tape is split into 4 sets of stereo tracks. So each of them is only 25 minutes. But the fast forward is very slow on it. I think the fast forward is only like 2 times speed. So anytime there's any sort of mistake, I see it starts clipping or anything, I have to stop it and then wait like 12 minutes for it to go back to the start of the tape. And then I have to try over again. And I spent, not counting the time actually recording it onto or off of, I probably spent like 2 or so hours just getting everything set for it. It was pretty annoying, but it does sound pretty nice. add a little nice lo-fi grit to the track. So basically these two are constantly like, when you can hear this one at its peak, you can't hear this one, and when you hear this one at its peak, you can't hear this one, so on. They're just constantly coming in and out against each other. I mean, that's pretty much it, honestly. It's a fairly simple track, technically, but it took a really long time to make, because I intended for this to be a good track to listen to while going to sleep or meditating. So having to make sure it's level, nothing peaks or stands out really, but it still has this movement. That's part of what made the mixing process take so long. It was just trying to accommodate for, this being something to listen to while going to sleep. And it honestly came out as good as I could have possibly expected. The Coil album Time Machines is a huge inspiration of mine. And that is an album that I enjoy listening to while like taking a nap or whatever. And one of the key things I've identified in it that makes it good for that is it's very simple. It's not something that grabs your attention enough that it keeps you awake and focused on it, but it has enough movement and complexity that it distracts your mind enough from trying to get to sleep that it kind of lulls you off into this sort of trance-like state as you feel this sound kind of moving around in your head, and it creates these sorts of audio illusions where because the main thing you're hearing through the track is let's see if I can the main thing you're hearing through the track is very simple. It's just this note that's kind of wavering. But there's so much stuff in the background. So many tiny noises and movements that it kind of tricks you into hearing things that aren't there. Sort of how the human mind, like, it sees faces and everything. How we kind of, like, conform random things into some sort of pattern. It does, our mind does that with sounds as well. That you kind of start hearing things in the background that aren't necessarily there. And I think that is one of the key things that makes this and Time Machines both very good for listening to while going to sleep, because your mind gets sort of preoccupied with hearing those things that don't exist, and it distracts you enough that you can sleep. Because my mind doesn't stop. That's the problem I have when I'm trying to sleep. I keep thinking, and so I need something like this that can kind of grab my attention, but not enough that it keeps me awake. It's a very difficult balance to strike, but it came out very well in this. I also exported this as a loop, so that way it's, it works very well for listening to while going to sleep, because you can just loop it on Spotify and it'll just keep going rather than auto playing into some random thing that wakes you up. And because I've rendered it as a loop, it transitions between the start and end quite well. But that's about all there is to it. It's a fairly simple track, but there's a lot of complexity hidden inside it. But yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching, and I don't know. Maybe I'll do the second horror soundscape next, but that's gonna be a while because I still need to finish that. So I'll see ya.